Let's good. All right. Welcome today to our program on civic engagement and through different strategies using different formats for engaging students in what's happening with the political world and other aspects of the world and having things for them to do related to it, both in learning and in achieving. And we have a very solid group of speakers who have been doing this for many years. And it's quite interesting. One of our people that's most active right now has been doing it only 15 years, and he is, comparatively speaking, a newcomer. So we've got folks who've been doing it many, many years. So I am very happy to have them here. We have, now I need to know what is on everybody's screens, and I don't know how to deal with that precisely. And Adam, can you help me through this one, since you seem to be the one who understood it the most here? I have never had the issues that we had getting ready.
Right, so we can all hear you. That's the first thing. If everyone can hear, thumbs up, or some of them have their cameras off, send an emoji so we can get a check for understanding that you can hear us and see us. So I see checks from Angelica, Lorraine, Jim. I don't think we need one from you. Francesca and Jalen.
Okay.
All right, we got Francesca. Jalen, you're the only one who hasn't confirmed that you can see and hear us.
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay.
I can hear.
All right.
Jalen
They are good to go.
Okay.
And if you want, you can share your screen. You're the host. So whenever you're ready, Margaret.
Okay. I'm going to share it with no, I haven't, it didn't work here. Okay, I want to have, well, you're in the screen. Maybe that's what we need to do.
Do you want me to share the agenda that you sent us?
No, not necessarily. Jim, why don't you share, because you're the one who had it. We need to go to Adam's program.
Oh, his
Yeah, his slides.
no,
Okay.
his slides. I've got Joanne's slides.
I'm happy to share first.
You'll go ahead and share first.
Okay. So thank you all for attending, and I wanted to say how much I appreciate you sticking around your schools or doing this from your house at 4 o'clock on a Thursday or Wednesday. Sorry. So I'm going to share something that's kind of a labor of love that I've been working on with many other teachers at my school site for about 20 years now. And I'm going to maybe share for about 10 minutes and then answer any questions that any of you might have. So what you're looking at on the screen is, this first slide is why we do this. I teach in Garden Grove, which is a very diverse district. It's about 2/3 non-white. My work site, Pacifica High School, is about 1/3 white, 1/3 Asian, 1/3 Latinx. So it's a very interesting place. It's a very diverse space. There's lots of political diversity, socioeconomic diversity, racial diversity, religious diversity. So this project is really perfect for our school, but no matter where I taught, I would do this. And part of the reason we do this is there's a disconnect between most of our students and civic engagement. We know this from national voter registration trends. We know this from local voter registration trends. We know this from local voter turnout rate trends. So we're trying to address that, and I think you can see up here there's room to improve civic engagement for all youth, regardless of race and ethnicity. And the biggest demographic group at our school right now is actually Latino, and I think you can see why we do this. So we're about 1/3 Latino, 1/3 Asian, 1/3 white. Even white students are not as civically engaged as we want them to be. So this is a concern, I think, statewide, nationwide. So we decided about 20 years ago, we were going to try to take this on. And what we're going to show you is the product of about 20 years of work from entire department. Many of the teachers doing this project came on in the last few years. Many of the teachers who contributed to this are no longer with us. They've retired. So they all play a role. And before I show you the document, I wanted to just show you maybe some of the highlights of things that our students do in the community. So we see this project as kind of like their laboratory assignment, just like students in a physics class would do a lab, a bio class, they do a lab. Students in a math class do math problems. The library for a civics classroom is their community. And there's no shortage of opportunities for students to learn the curriculum by participating in the curriculum. It's kind of shocking to me that we don't see more of that and more teachers facilitating it. So hopefully this model is one maybe you could use to get started. This is the model that we have now in place. When we started, it didn't look like this. So this is like the gold standard as of now. But one of the things that we encourage students to do, and this is perfect in an even numbered year like this one, get involved in elections. And most government is local government. There's no shortage of candidates, causes, ballot propositions, local measures, state propositions. These are students who, in the top left, who campaigned on behalf of a congressional candidate. So this is a former student of mine who later became mayor, who ran for Congress, and this is how the project comes full circle. So when this individual, Bao Wen, was a student at Pacific, we were just getting started on doing this. Now this is him running for Congress in 2016. Now we have actual Pacifica students working on his campaign. So we've had actual Pacifica students run for city council. So we have one running for school board. We've had one elected mayor and at least one run for Congress. So here's another example of election action. This is a student on the right canvassing. We have to study elections and campaigns. So they actually learn something about elections and campaigns by directly participating in them. Here's some students phone banking on behalf of a county candidate. Pacifica High School is in Orange County. I know not all of you are from Orange County. So this is the Orange County Board of Supervisors race. Here's another group of students. At an election party, I tell them one of the coolest things about working on a campaign is you get invited to the party. Whether the candidate wins or loses, you'll get invited to the party. So here's 3 of my students from 2019 who volunteered on this campaign. And that's just one of our many pathways that we have for students to take informed action and demonstrate civic participation. So we call the project the Civic Engagement Project now. We used to call it community service, then we called it service learning, then we called it something else. The reason we changed from service learning to civic engagement is service learning kind of sounds like time, like doing time. Traditionally, that's how teachers have asked students to get involved in their community, volunteer, do hours. A lot of times that is fruitful, but a lot of times that's kind of perceived by students as doing time. So we don't want to sentence them to service learning. That's not the goal. We don't think that's going to keep them as long-standing civic participants. So we encourage them to choose a pathway, and I'm going to show you the 5 pathways in a second, that meets their needs. And not all students are at the same place when it comes to civic engagement and civic participation. So just like teachers would start where kids are at in the classroom, that's kind of how we approach this project. So if you want to do nonprofit work, you still can. Here's an example of a student who did nonprofit through one of our high school's service clubs. We have 3 or 4 service clubs on campus that are great to move students into civic action. If students want, they can also go off campus and volunteer at an organization like Big Brothers Big Sisters. I have one more example. They could volunteer for a nonpartisan organization, the Orange County Register of Voters. They need poll workers. Every two-year election cycle. I think you can see this is the school I teach at. We're pretty proud of this. And we've had like 250 students over a 10-year period serve as poll workers. In fact, some of my former students now work full-time for the Orange County Register of Voters as an election supervisor. So that's one of the unintended consequences of this project. And since we've been doing it for so long, we can really see some of the long-term effects. Here's a more recent example of that. And the gold standard, and I'll go over this one in a little more detail in a minute, is what we call CAPS. So we started doing this in 2016. CAPS is a student-run after-school program where the students literally decide what issue in their community they want to address. So they survey the community, they identify community assets, then they develop an action plan and they implement it. And most of them do something that involves an institution of local government, school board, city council. So we've changed many policies in our community at our site level and in our city through this program. Another highlight is students who participate in this. They don't have to do this, but they usually want to. They have the option of entering their project into county competitions. And you can see we've had students place first several times, third several times. Here's an example of, here's an example of a student who entered, here's some Pacifica students. They entered their CAPS project in the Orange County Showcase, got first place. They got a paid trip to Washington, DC to see the inauguration. Here's another example of a student who won the speech competition. So not only do we have links to the curriculum, we also have opportunities for students to win awards and build their resumes. And that's kind of the another unintended consequence of this. And our fourth option is what I would call taking informed action and doing something that connects to local government. And that could be writing a letter to a congressman, attending a town hall, participating in a rally, local event, speaking at a school board meeting, something like that. So there's no shortage of opportunities. And what we do is we also give students an awareness of opportunities. So this is from 2020. So we're rolling out this project this week. So this is going to look different in 2022, but we also promote through the organizations that contact us what they can do to get involved. And we're at the point now where we have dozens of organizations, dozens of candidates, dozens of opportunities for students, because we're known in the community for doing this. And what campaign doesn't want poll workers and precinct walkers and things like that? So that's an overview of the project. And before I show you the actual document, do we have any questions about any of these particular examples of students doing their civic engagement project? You can unmute and just ask. Or Margaret or Jim, if you see a hand raised, you can let me know.
I have a question regarding the involvement. Is this a grade book? Everybody is required to do this, or is this just this in order to get the seal on the diploma? Do you work with the English department in order to get their finished product? Because it sounds like there's an assignment potentially attached to this.
So there is an assignment. There's always been an assignment. You're referring to the state seal of civic literacy.
Yes.
That came out 2 years ago, and 100% of our students qualify for that award because of this project. So the district sets the criteria for that project, and 100% of our students qualify. Now, that doesn't mean 100% of them apply. They have to apply for the civic seal of civic literacy. But I can't remember the numbers last year. We had more students at our high school that got the award than all the other high schools combined. And we have a 7 high school district. So I don't know if that answers your question. So it doesn't connect directly to that, but if they complete this project. And this is something that all students at Pacifica do. AP, CP, SPED students, we have all of them do this. And we usually have 99% completion rate on this. If they do that, then they will fulfill the district's criteria for the seal of civic literacy. So that's an unintended consequence that's been positive too.
You said there were 5 pathways. What's
Yes.
the 5th pathway?
I'm glad you asked that because that's new for this year. So I'm going to show you that in a second. So if you guys are ready, I will show you the 5th pathway. So we don't have any images of the 5th pathway because we are going to offer it for the first time this year. So as I was saying before, the project is continuously evolving. I'm going to stop my share really quick and go into this document. So this is the document that I dropped this in chat. Do I need to drop this in chat again, Margaret, or is it already in there?
We can see it.
Okay.
So I don't
So,
know.
so you have access to the link. It's in chat.
Yeah, it's in the
So-
chat.
Or Jim, if you can just copy and paste it into chat. So this is the document that all the senior civics teachers use. So I've taught both college prep civics and AP civics. Right now, I only teach AP students, but I use this. The college prep civics teachers, they use this too. So it's very equitable. It's very participatory. Since I've gone over the first 4 options, let me just highlight one thing before I move into the 5th option. So no matter what option they do, it's not about like doing time. 5 hours is not as much as most high schools that are doing these kind of projects require. My daughter goes to a high school that requires 50 hours of service learning. And kids, because I hear her talking about it with her friends, kids kind of see it as doing time. What's the easiest way to get this done? So students wind up choosing service based on criteria that really doesn't directly impact their civic development or their classroom connections. So hours isn't the most important thing. They need to obviously do some hours so that they can do the other stuff that we ask them to do. So here's the academic piece. And we ask them to submit a brief 1 to 2 page write-up. Making class connections, and how did your experience support, contrast, extend to class? What kind of civic behaviors did you participate in? Did you develop your civic efficacy, your civic duty? And the other thing we do on this document is when candidates contact us, we put them on here. Now, we cannot endorse candidates. I'm sure that's the same for all of your schools. I know that there's some schools out there that are doing like candidate forums. We don't do that, but if there's a candidate who is seeking student volunteers, we post the link, we direct the students to their website, but we don't endorse candidates. We have Democratic candidates, Republican candidates, nonpartisan candidates. Most of the candidates, local government, are nonpartisan. So that's how we do option A, which is kind of election action. Students wind up learning more about campaigns. Option 2, which is kind of the classic kind of civic participation, service learning, community service, volunteering for some nonprofit. We still have that. This was our original option. It's now option 2. Same thing. They have to link to the class in their write-up. And you can see we have 2 organizations that have already reached out to us. More of them will reach out to us in this month. They know we roll it out in October. So this is going to get bigger. And then the 3rd option is, this is the gold standard. This is the Community Action Project, or CAPS. So this one's a little different. This one, they don't have to do a write-up because they're doing a little more meeting hours. So this one, they're going to meet after school. This one's also accessible to kids who want to do their service learning, civic action, civic engagement on campus. So we meet once a week during the fall semester. And the 4th option is contacting a local official or participating in some kind of local government event or meeting. So here is the newest. I know that civics is more than just 3 branches of federal government. So now here's our newest, local government in action. So we just rolled this out this year. So we'll have slides and data on all this. They attend 2 of the following 3 local government activities, city council, school board, or Superior Court of Orange County. And then they do a write-up about how local government institutions are important. So those are the 5 pathways. Typically the students spread pretty equally into the different pathways, which is great. I think it's a reflection of them having some choice and getting to work on, you know, the civic skill that they want to work on, the civic the topic that they want to work on. So we have great participation. I think one of the questions is about grading. I'll go back to the top. I highlighted this right up here, and I'm going to highlight this right here. So all of us, we agree that this should be roughly 10% of the semester grade. We're not trying to be punitive. You know, that's their incentive to do it in terms of their grade. But really, this is about developing lifelong civic practices. And we know that when students do this stuff, they're less likely to do destructive behaviors. They're more likely to be lifelong civic participants. Our students, you know, are still involved with a lot of these organizations 10, 20 years later. Many of them have become candidates, elected candidates, elected officials now. So it's really cool to see. So we're proud of it, and happy to answer any questions that you have about it.
Hi, I was wondering if I could ask a question.
Yeah.
Is this done in, I'm sorry if you answered this, in a specific course? It's your civics course or your history courses?
Correct. So it's rolled out in our 12th grade civics courses, and all the teachers, we have 3 different teachers who teach civics. They all roll it out either the last week of September or the first week of October. That's designed to correspond with the election cycle that's starting. And it's due by the end of the first semester, December 16th.
Is your civics course the same as a government course?
So yeah, we're a public high school. We teach the same 12th grade civic standards. So we believe that this complements their understanding of institutions of government, and they learn a lot about local institutions of government. They learn a lot about federalism, the important role of state and local governments. You know, that's one of the things that makes civics kind of distance to kids, is when you just like exclusively focus on like the 3 branches of the federal government. We do a lot of that, like students, you know, students learn that too. But this is really, I think most teachers would say our biggest priority is to develop lifelong civic participants.
Thank you.
So do you guys have a separate government course and then a civics course at your school?
Nope. They're deeply connected. This is their lab, just like students would do a lab in a bio class. They wouldn't have like a bio class and then a bio lab. They're integrated. This is their lab when they take a required state of California mandated civics course, which they have to take to graduate. So we're trying to bring that experience into the course, not necessarily separate it from the course. And we feel they'll learn more about voting, elections, campaigns, the other required topics through this as well.
Is your government course a semester and paired with economics?
So the students take civics first semester at our school, then they take economics the second semester. I think that's how almost all high schools do it in California.
And so if they don't finish this in their government course, would the work carry on to their economics course, or do they have to finish everything within their first semester?
So it's situated in their first semester course. We haven't really had that problem. Like I said, 99% of students did this. And even during the pandemic, we had about 99% of students do this. And, you know, the pandemic was particularly challenging for this project because, you know, students couldn't get out in the community. In fact, many of them were not allowed by their parents, but they still mostly did it. And that was really impressive to me. So we created some kind of unique options that year for more options they could do from home. But yeah, even during the pandemic, we kept this one going. So I'm really proud of my team. Our team.
Okay. Adam, how about if we, I wanted to give you a thank you because you have been so helpful and being able to step up, even though we're out of sync because of the, of not having all of our presenters right at the beginning. So we really appreciate it. And I wanted the audience to know that Adam's program that he's highlighting, he's been part of for, like you said, about 20 years. And that it's been something that has received an award from the programs from the State Department of Education.
There's
and
the newspaper clippings of the awards we've won right behind me.
Oh, cool. And
That's why I sat here.
and so I was going to ask on whether or not the efforts that have been made out in the community, that has it changed the attitude of the community towards the students and the school because of the contact that has evolved?
I've seen some noticeable changes. I've seen school board members come onto campus and appreciate the students at a higher level because many of them were involved in helping them get elected. So it just makes a unique experience that I think everyone benefits from. The community does as well. We have higher voter turnout rates in this side of the community. We have more students involved in campaigns in this side of the community. So I've noticed the community benefit as well. And if nothing else, the students have one more thing to put on their resume. They can apply for the seal of civic literacy through this experience. So there's all kinds of like tangible benefits, immediate benefits, community benefits, unintended benefits. I've also noticed improved academic literacy outcomes as part of this as well. They know more. There's nothing like learning about an election by actually participating in one. And a lot of times government is kind of distant to students because these aren't things that they normally see and do. So they're actually involved in this. So they learn a lot about the topics in the course as well. So no matter what your goals are in a class, like content literacy, civic literacy, reading and writing literacy improve through the write-up. All forms of literacy are enhanced in this.
Well, his school received an award from the Supreme Court Justice, the head justice, and of Supreme Court of California, and the Superintendent of Public Instruction. So that's the two of the top leaders in the state of California. And the award is the Champion of Civics, a kind of award. And that's, excuse me, that isn't the name of the award. It's the
Civic Education Award.
Civic Education Award. And I think that's pretty spectacular. And to be continuing with that, there was one school, high school in California when that happened, and so when you keep building on those things, then all of a sudden the school gets to be, a very special school. So congratulations there. We now have our speaker who is going to be first. And are you ready to go, Jose?
Yes, I'm so sorry. Our whole district's having some internet issues right now. So sorry, I was a little late. And thank you guys for having me.
We don't have a lot of time for you in between here. So you want me to introduce right now? And Stacy, if you could hold on just a minute.
Sure, thank you.
Okay, so Jose Sanchez works in Alhambra High School. And it's very interesting. You tell us about the student body so we can compare it to Adams School in Orange County. But he has involved with a real deep commitment to this type of program of engaging students in their community, very much like Adam. And it's some of the same results are happening. Goodness gracious, he got an award. He's the one that got the champion of civics, and as an individual at his school, which I thought was rather magnificent. And so would you tell us about how you're using the civic engagement at Alhambra High School?
Sure, thank you, and thank you for having me. Is it possible for me to share my screen?
It's fine with me, and but I don't know how to tell you when we've got multiple people.
Okay, I'll just be quick.
Oh, good. Okay, great.
Let me see here. And I'll just kind of give you guys kind of just a very quickly just some of the stuff that we do at Alhambra High School. But we the real focus is really trying to get students engaged in their community in various ways. A lot of it has to do with the election. So we have actually an election coming up in November. So let's see here. Oops, sorry. So what we try to do is kind of teach students, and not just students in my class, the whole entire school. We try to teach students about the candidates, the different propositions that are happening. We actually have the students interview all of the candidates. So anyone who's running for school board, anyone who's running for city council, even assembly, state assembly or county races, for example, county supervisor. We actually have students reach out to the candidates and interview them. And we come up with like the same, or the students come up with the same generic 3 questions that they ask the candidates. We record them over Zoom. So that's one of the great things about Zooming. We upload the videos to YouTube and we share them with the entire student body. We select a day during the week when teachers will teach the lesson. We'll create a lesson plan with it. I'll share in the link, I'll share a link to my folder and it has all the resources. You can copy them, handouts, some of the PowerPoints that we've created, worksheets that we kind of have students use. The last one that we had students do actually was for our state assembly. And this is in the Assembly District 49. And so our students reached out to both the Republican and Democratic candidate and interviewed both of them. Same question, interviewed them over Zoom. Then they created a lesson plan and shared it with the entire school. And we relied on all of the social science teacher in our departments to teach them. Then we had a mock election that the students ran as well, so that we could kind of, after watching the videos and the interviews, the students can actually vote and decide who they liked. And believe it or not, the results actually kind of mirrored the actual results in our school, in our district, just in terms of the general election. Oh, I'm not going to play those, but the videos are there, and on the worksheets, you can obviously click on the link. But I mean, I can share kind of like a short little clip. So that was just kind of a brief intro, just kind of what the kids do. And we have them do that for each election. So at the moment, they interviewed all of the city council candidates for both Alhambra and our neighboring city, Monterey Park. And they're also having a kids and candidates forum in the evening where they're interviewing all of the school board candidates in person. The students come up with all the questions and run the entire event in the evening. This is sponsored by our school district as well. The other part is that we do at Alhambra High School is not just getting kids involved in the election, but actually having them try to create change. I think that's one of the things we talk about in Alhambra, as teachers, is once we teach a unit, like what do we have kids, what do we want kids to do with this? And so every year we have students take up an issue. In the past years, there's been something different. At the height of the school violence that we saw after the Marjorie Stoneman shooting that happened in Florida, our students did wrote a gun control law. They went to our city council, our school board, local organizations, and then finally they brought it to their congresswoman, who actually introduced it as a House resolution, worked with my students, helped refine their law, and invited them to DC to actually present their law on the House floor. And it was known as House Resolution 1076. The kids kind of do their own research. They pick their own topic. Then once they kind of decide how they want to do this, they educate our school community. And then, once you start teaching something, then you're kind of ready to go out there and start doing something with it. And then they decide how they want to present or what type of change they want to create. So in 2018, they chose gun control. In 2019, they tried to make their city into a sanctuary city for immigrants. They brought a resolution to their city council, and the city debated it for 4 council meetings for 4 months, which kind of brought a lot of people out to debate the issue of immigration. They didn't necessarily get it approved by the city, but the city did issue their own resolution in support of immigrants within the city. And some of them are controversial. I told my kids, try not to make too controversial, you're going to get me fired. But, I told them it's definitely worth what they do. This was HR 1076, which the kids wrote with their help of their congresswoman. Just this month, other ways that they became involved, they invited their congresswoman to actually have a dialogue with him on gun control on September the 7th, which was actually National Day, Gun Prevention Day of Action. And so she came and met with them for over an hour, and the kids fielded questions to her about different types of issues dealing with ghost guns, from extended magazines, and what types of works that she's doing to try to prevent gun violence in schools, especially. And then my students also have a very amazing relationship with our local historical society. And so one of my classes is actually working on uncovering some missing murals that are in their post office, which is across the street from their school. No one in the community has actually seen them, but they worked closely with the National Archives Center in DC, with a college professor from Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and the FDR Library, and did a presentation to the community. Most people in Alhambra had never seen these murals because they were painted over in the 1960s. And so this was the first time the community had actually seen sketches of the murals that used to exist in our post office. And now they're working to try to get, the Getty Museum actually is working with them to try to remove the paint and try to get these murals back in the post office. And so this is an ongoing project that one of my classes is currently working on. And this is our Kids and Candidates Forum, which is actually for us next week. And our students are running this entire event, which is pretty amazing. And all of the candidates have agreed to attend. And they'll get questions that are fielded from the students. And just a little bit about myself. I'm a parent. I live in the community, which is really great. My kids go to school here. I have a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and I'm sorry, 2-year-old and a 1-year-old. And I'm actually running for city council as well at the moment. I'm on the ballot. One of the things my students always say is, why aren't you running? Why are we learning about the other candidates? You should run. And I'm like, I can't do it. I have kids. I have, I'm a full-time teacher. There's no way I can do it. But I've decided to throw my hat in the ring, as they say. And so I am currently running for city council in Monterey Park, which is served by my school district. Our school district serves the cities of Alhambra, San Gabriel, and Monterey Park. So I try to live by what I teach and the importance of civic engagement. And so that's one of the reasons I'm running. But that's kind of a little bit of what we do at Alhambra. I'll post the link in the chat to my drive that I posted with all of some of the information that I've talked about. You're more than welcome to use. Feel free to reach out to me as well. I'll post my email as well in the chat, and we can. I know it's a lot, and I know I've been doing this for quite a bit now, so we've almost honed it down to a science now. I also did want to mention that our school is a California democracy school because of the amount of civic engagement that we require students to do, not just visiting city council elections and city council meetings and school board meetings, but actually participating in elections and doing a lot of the work that you kind of saw that they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Jose. It was a wonderful and good luck on your election. I think that's really pretty cool.
Thank you, thank you. I'm every evening I'm hitting the streets, knocking on doors. I have about almost 4,000 homes that I need to knock on, and but it's, you know, putting up lawn signs, sending out mailers, and it's not a cheap process either.
Stacy, we couldn't talk last time. You still have that question?
Oh, I just wanted to share with Adam and with Jose. I don't know if you're aware, and I guess everybody. I'll put the link in the chat. There's this. It's a fellowship called Equity in Civics Youth Fellowship, and it's created by iCivics. It's actually for 9th through 12th graders, and the fellowship is for an entire year, and the what am I trying to? Students basically work on individual projects and group projects, and they fly the participants out to DC for a long weekend. And I know this because my daughter actually was selected this year, and so she's going to DC tomorrow. So I'm learning as we go along. But this year they had 650 students apply, and they pick 30 students each year. And so I'm just telling you because it sounds like the students you guys are working with are ripe for, you'd be really great to apply for this for next year. And so I would really encourage you to check it out for the next year. I think this next year will be the 5th year that they have it going. And I'm not sure how I learned about it last year. The students have to have a teacher nominate them. But more than that, they have to put together their own, essays and stuff. But it just sounds like the work you guys are both doing is amazing. And it sounds like you have lots of candidates who would be really great for this fellowship. So I just wanted to let you know that it's out there and available.
Appreciate it very much. And
Thank you.
these are the kinds of things that the networking we're creating here will help us all. So wonderful. Thank you for bringing that up. Elizabeth Ramos is our next speaker, and she is AP US History, AP Government and Civics, Econ at Loma Linda, Alta Loma. My World Affairs Council is at Loma Linda, so the whole, I'm not sure I'm all with it today. And the Chaffee Joint Union High School District. And she has done some absolutely amazing work. Like Adam Wimmer, who was our first speaker, she has worked outside of school with new hires, the
Pre-service.
pre-service. Thank you. It's very significant. And you're at Claremont Graduate University, and Adam is at Cal State Long Beach. So, those are ways you're also helping the community, is why I'm bringing that up, and sharing some of the ideas. I hope that you're sharing those with your students. But Liz has been involved with learning about how civics works. Lately, she's been doing it very connected to journalism and the information that gets out to the voters. And she has been doing some magnificent work there, but I don't know what you're going to talk about. So you may pick whatever you want to talk about. You don't have to talk about those things. So go for it, Liz.
Okay. Thank you, Peg. So like Peg said, I'm at Alta Loma High School. I used to teach APUSH. It's been years. So right now I'm teaching AP Gov and World History, teaching it thematically, and I will never go back to teaching it the old way of doing it. So I have, like Peg said, I like bringing in media literacy, journalism. I also sit on the board of the News Literacy Project. So I like to bring that into the class, and I like to also help the kids to localize the narrative. And when we talk about civics and civil rights and civic action. It's happening here in our community. It has happened here in our community, and to try to localize the narrative. So like when we're talking about the civil rights unit in AP Gov, we cover the civil rights movement as it's framed out with the AP College Board. But then I also like to bring in and localize the narrative. So here's an example of a slide I would throw up with my students. Do you recognize any of these names? And most of them never have. And we'll talk about how here are people who are local. Vincent Chin isn't local, but I bring him in as well. And talk about these BIPOC people of color who have instituted change. I always like telling kids, like, history is made by, and I have many different political shirts that I'll have, and like well-behaved women seldom make history and making noise. And I tell the kids that, you know, history is the study of people who've taken subversive action. Like subversive also often has like a negative connotation, but people who've been considered subversive or change makers or disruptors, those are people who got into good trouble trying to right the wrongs and make the community and the world a better place around us. Also, I love John Lewis, good trouble. My kids know that saying. We have life size cut out of him in my class. I don't even know how many shirts I have of him anymore. So I always like to try to frame it as people who've taken action, who've used their civics, their agency to bring about change. And so we'll talk about these people in our class. And these are all people here in the Inland Empire who've helped to make changes. This one really gets the kids talking. And this comes from a slide from a presentation I heard Marco Segueta give a few years back. And he's currently working on a book on Latinos in the Inland Empire, and I can't wait for that to come out. He's a professor at Brown University. And so I'll have my kids take a look at this. And here we'll see the picture of Ernie Benzor in his military uniform. And then there's a picture of him in his baseball uniform. And I'm like, what do you notice? And we'll talk about how Mexican Americans are utilizing baseball to make the claims, and how like they were not allowed to integrate and play baseball, but they could be drafted or they could go ahead and serve in our military and serve in wars. And as an act that these gentlemen had taken, they chose to wear their military belt as part of their uniform for baseball. And so that gets the kids talking about things, and they're like, well, wait a minute, we haven't heard or we didn't know about this. And then I'm like, well, get ready, because we're going to shake it up some more. And this picture is here, taken here in Rancho Cucamonga. So this is just down the street from my school on Hermosa and Arrow. And I'll ask the kids, what do you see going on? And I'll give them a moment to like talk in their table groups, and then we'll share out and like, what do you think the point of this is? And it's titled Yonke Stadium. And Yonke and Yankee combined together. And Yonke is in Spanish like junk, and then Yankee, a play on Yankee baseball team, fused together. And I'll tell them how this story is like an older photo of our community, where the Latinos had taken a decommissioned military truck. They had found a railroad tie, and the kids will notice that they're pulling something behind the truck. And I'm like, yeah, that's an old railroad tie that they had found. And there was this field that wasn't being used, and how they would take junk, things that people weren't using, and they would create their own space in order to play baseball. And the kids like, wait, what? And I'm like, yeah, that's right here in Rancho Cucamonga. This is your city. This is like, we could literally walk in 15 minutes and go to this corner. It doesn't look like that anymore, but the kids are always surprised. And so I'll tell them all, like, yeah, there's lots of stories of civil rights that happen here in our area as well that aren't covered in your textbooks, that we need to find. And there's a lot of richness in our where we live. This one. So here is a newspaper with El Espectador. Lopez, he owned this newspaper. He was based out of Ontario, Pomona area, and he would use his newspaper to bring awareness to issues facing the Latino community, and call to awareness, try to raise awareness, call for people to organize or boycott, take action. Hey, we need to resist this. And I had grown up as a little kid. I didn't realize the importance, but my tia was always telling me stories about how like they couldn't use the pool in Azusa. They had to wait till the day before they drained it. And I grew up with her telling me these stories. And I'm like, as a little kid, I didn't understand until later on. I'm like, oh, that's civil rights. That's why my tia was always telling us those stories growing up. And so here, Lopez from El Espectador, they weren't allowed to use the pool pools out here. And so in San Bernardino Pool, La Plonge, they had sued. They had sued in order to get it desegregated. And it is an early precedent case that is cited in the Brown versus Board of Education case. And the lawyer who works on the Lopez versus Sacombe, who was the mayor of San Bernardino City that they sued to desegregate it, the lawyer that, and forgive me, his name escapes my mind right now, the lawyer who worked on the Lopez versus Sacombe case was one of the lawyers on Mendez versus Westminster, who works with Marshall, who goes on to Brown versus Board. And when the kids hear that thread, like, what? And most of my kids have not heard of Mendez, so we also spend some time talking about Mendez. The kids are like, wait, that the thread comes back out here? I'm like, yes. And the kids like, we've never heard this. And I'm like, well, that's why we're talking about it right now. So you can see the connection that we have. And a lot of my students, when they think of the civil rights movement, they think that the segregation and not being able to use resources was with African Americans and whites. And when I say, no, those of you who are like me and who are Latino, you're included in that as well. And a lot of them are like, wait, what? And then I'll have one of the signs that I'll say no Hispanics served here as well for primary source. And we'll talk about that. Like, we never realized that. And so then the kids are fired up. And I'm like, well, there's a lot more stories of what's happened here in our community. So here's a mural from a museum in LA. And then after we've localized the narrative by talking about civil rights in the Inland Empire, we'll take a look at this mural. And if we come over here in my class, we'll take a look. The students will be on their Chromebooks. And you can, let me just close this. You can navigate and click on here, and it'll give you little stories and little vignettes of some of the history and struggles out here in the inland, or out here in Southern California. So we'll take a look at this, and then let me move this toolbar is in my way. Hold on. Whoops. No, that's not well. Let me move this down. We'll take a look at this, and then I'm like, okay, so I want you now to do something similar with what's going on in our community. And so here in Rancho Cucamonga, historically, and we're known for like the wine, and we have lots of old wineries out here. And so we'll look at the grape, and this is like, the grape is also kind of like the icon, mascot, if you will, for our city, for Rancho Cucamonga. So I'll give them a slide deck that'll have this, and I'll tell them, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at what is some of the civics and civil rights and stories of activism in our own community. And they will have their own slide deck where they're going to find some pictures, and they're going to crop them and make them into shapes. And then they're going to tell their story. Why is it significant to know? How did this help in struggles for equality over time? And so I'll give them some ideas to start off with. And we start our year off with the land acknowledgement. And we've had some issues with our mascot, not gonna lie. I think we have some more work to do. We're Altaloma Braves. Our mascot used to be totally inappropriate. They've changed it. I would like to change it a little bit more personally. But we'll take a look at this. And then in our library, we also have, when they were excavating for the school, they have like some arrowhead remnants that they have in the library case. They'll take a look at Rancho Cucamonga history. We're fortunate that our city has a lovely story map that has a bunch of history that they can go through and pull different stories from in here. We have the Chinatown house that's on the verge of falling apart, and there's a local group that's trying to raise money to preserve it. But we'll also talk about how come that one hasn't had groups working to preserve it, but Rain's house has. And a lot of our students have gone to field trips with the Rain's house. We'll take a look at Cucamonga Winery. We have here an interview from a Latino migrant worker from when we had a lot of fields out here. And then on Foothill, most students don't know, and a lot of people will drive past it and not realize there's a marker from Italian prisoner of war camp that we have out here. And the kids are like, wait, what? And I'm like, yes. So we'll give them some opportunities to take a look at what is some of the connections with civil rights and struggles for equality that we have here in our own city. So that's something that we'll do in our class. We also do pre-register to vote. And so our kids also do the poll workers. We're having our training in a couple of weeks for that. And what we do is when our kids do the FAFSA ID, the counselors come in and they create their ID. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, this is perfect time because they're going to have the social to also do pre-register. So my students, and we do ideology test and activity beforehand, but not all of our history teachers, or if they're in econ, haven't done that. So I had my kids create posters, flyers that we put around the school. So here's the Google Doc with their assignment that I had given them with information straight from our registrar, Secretary of State. They're going to create a digital or paper poster. They turned it in on Canvas. I gave them resources. I had their poster requirements, California toolkit. So they did that. And then here are some of the samples. So then I got them printed up in color and they're posted all over campus. And I wanted them to also include a QR code to an ideology test that the students could take to help identify what political parties they might match up with. So here are some, and these were all created by my students, and we got them printed up and they're posted all over our campus. And so that is an activity that we had done. The year we had the census, we had done one of the lessons from the census curriculum. And then I had my kids create a census awareness. So my kids, I said, you can do better than this from the Census Bureau. Create some. So then my kids created their own, similar to the ones I showed you for voting. They created PSAs. I encourage, if you can, go ahead and put some in different languages. So I know we had a couple in Spanish, and a couple of students rainbowed them out at LGBTQ. We need to get the numbers and representation. So the kids did lovely on that. I got some of the people from our district to also retweet that. And we had taken a look at that map that showed Rancho Cucamonga had a lot of red, and red means we had a lot of people that did not fill out the census form. So that's something we had done. Oh, here are the posters printed out here. And then there was our census activity. So those are just a couple of things that we've done. We've different issues they'll have, and we'll invite our principal in, talk about them. He'll be on a hot seat on different topics that they're like, well, what about this? What about that? So having an open dialogue and like, okay, my kids will be going and having an extra opportunity to take a look at school board meetings, as well as something we're putting in there. So those are just a few of the things that we do in my class. We've had our county supervisor come in and talk to our students about what's going on in the county. She was great about zooming in right as San Bernardino County was putting in the mask mandate where we went into shutdown. But here's another thing I want to share really quickly. iCivics, one of my faves, and Cal Matters. I love Cal Matters. I love Emily's daily newsletter, have teamed up to provide election midterm resources free of charge. So Cal Matters has a lovely voter guide. So if you're gonna be having your kids take a look at propositions, they also have a YouTube channel. I forget if it's 60 or 90 seconds where they'll go through and break down a proposition. So here's their voter guide. They have the voter guide, iCivics, cast your vote resources, but they also have lovely resources where they have, do you have 10 minutes to take a look at what's going on with election? Do you have more time to go in deeper? So here are some of their featured resources. But what I'd like over here is we're on week 3, so all things ballot measures. Week 2 was participating politics. Week 1 was setting the term for midterm elections, where I believe that one was talking about like redistricting. They have a 10-minute activity that you could use as a bell opener activity, or they have a 45-minute lesson with teach this article. Now here's this. It's kind of like Newsella-ish, where they have articles, and they have the articles broken down into a couple of different levels, and then they also have it in Spanish. So they have some great resources here, teaming up with this double duo, and these are all free. They're not behind a paywall because, you know, sometimes different news organizations, these are all free articles that we can access, give to our students, and have them take a look at. And I just think these are wonderful opportunities. And then I believe up here, they have some more PD coming up. So these are the featured resources, how to teach current events, additional resources, and then they have some live on demand resources. So if you want to go in a little bit deeper with some of their resources, they do have some upcoming webinars where they'll go through. I was fortunate enough to hear them present on this initiative a couple weeks ago at Constitution Day at the Reagan Library, hosted by LA County, the Reagan Library, and the Constitutional Rights Foundation. So those are some civics ideas and resources. And I'll share the slide deck here that have these lovely resources for you.
Thank you. And I'd appreciate that very, very nice presentation as far as access to a lot of different ideas. Great. Any
and really quick, good luck, Jose. Good trouble. If I could vote for you, I'd vote for you.
Yeah. How about any questions from our group here? Kristen, you haven't got a question? Okay, we've got Stacy was the only one who burst through, no matter what I was going to say. So do you have another one, Stace?
Nope, I'm good. Thank you.
Well, I very much appreciate everybody's efforts here. It doesn't look, Adam and I were talking when he first came. He's our first person to show up for the session. And he was asking, what do we, how do we do this? Are we going to put the discussion group at the end? And we have one more of our speakers. And what's fun about this one is this is for middle school students that she's doing this. And she has been in middle school and has received all types of awards. This is Joanne Gillespie, and she is at Moreno Valley District, and she has received awards from the history projects, from Inland Empire Council for Social Studies, her own district. They are, she has been in education as long as my husband and I have been. We haven't met anybody else. Won't quit, except Joanne. And we met way long time ago. The very first thing I did when I was at county schools was an institute on the 6th grade history, social science starting the ancient civilizations in 6th grade, and most teachers had no training in those topics at that time. And so we brought in scholars and all of that kind of stuff and had a great time with it. And she's still using some of that material. And she is helping her students learn about how a government was set up, the ancient world governments, and which of them could do any democratic things. I mean, she has them evaluate the lives of the people in those ancient civilizations. And I'm really anxious to hear what you developed there, Joanne. And Jim, my husband Jim, who's across the room over here, is going to show her slides, and she's going to explain what she was trying to tell me about. Okay.
You ready? Okay. Good evening to everyone. My name, as Peg has said, is Joanne Gillespie, and I guess I have been around as long as they have. I keep thinking I'm leaving, and there's something to keep me staying there. So I think it's just a passion that I have for that particular grade level. In fact, the students have given me a nickname. My nickname is Ancient Warrior. So we do a lot of laughing about that. I have been with the Moreno Valley Unified School District since 1987. And prior to that, I was in the Santa Ana Unified School District, 1970. So I think I'm really dating myself, but I'm still here. So next slide. Okay, I thought it would be nice to give like a little push about what civics education is, because I find many teachers really don't know. And I have to admit myself that I had to learn about what civic education was. So I put in just a little bit that the purpose of civics education is to prepare students to be informed and engaged citizens. Now, this on the surface seems like it's very easy, but in today's society, it is probably one of the most difficult jobs to do. And I find myself constantly with my 6th graders, reminding them, okay, if you're going to behave a certain way, whatever we do in class, remember, you are the future. You are the citizens. So you don't wait until you get my age. You have to start when you are young. Also, civic education empowers us to be well-informed, active citizens. Citizens are then given the opportunity to change the world. Last but not least, since it does give the opportunity to change the world, it is a vital part of any democracy and equips ordinary people with knowledge about democracy and our Constitution. And the students see me in action in the classroom, that those words are not only said, but they're met and they're modeled. Next slide, please. Now, right now I'm on the unit of ancient Mesopotamia. And there was so much I wanted to put in the slide, and I knew that I couldn't be greedy. There were 4 of us. So I tried to keep it simple, but that you could go back immediately and use it. So before I do Hammurabi's Code, I want to show you something. And I have pictures of it, but there was so much I wanted to do, so I wanted to keep it limited. In introducing Mesopotamia, I have the students bring in a plant. And of course, people like your science teachers will say, why is she bringing in a plant? That's her science. What in the world does it have to do with ancient social studies? Well, number one, here's the relationship. In the ancient world and in today, agriculture, the land, the farming was very, very essential. And so I have the students bring in a plant, but I'm mindful of the economy. So I have them bring in something that's not over $4. And right now they are observing their plants for 2 weeks. And the 2 weeks is almost up. So they are beginning to have the correlation between, oh, okay, ancient Mesopotamia had land, we have land, they used it for farming, they used it for plants. We also have plants, but what is interesting about the plant unit is how they take care of it. If the students don't take care of their plants, it will show by the end, because already I'm getting, Mrs. Gillespie, my plant is dying. Why is it dying? Have you taken a look at the care that you gave it? Oh, okay, I'm going back to the drawing board and I need to see what I'm doing. Then when I put them in the textbook to read the pages on ancient Mesopotamia about the land, the farming, it makes sense to them because I relate everything together. Now, right after the part of the lesson that we're going to finish up this week, we are going to go into the writing and the Hammurabi's Code. But by that time, the students have a pretty good understanding that how the ancient people used the land, used the environment, related directly to the resources that they had when it came to something like writing. And so I guide the students step by step. But what is going to be funny about Hammurabi's Code, I'm going to bring out the toughest rules and what happened to people if they didn't obey, and that this was part of society. So this comes in about another week and a half, and the students are going to actually make their codes out of clay. Now, I realize that all the students aren't able to get all these materials. So we're going to start out first with very simple paper. And then once they get the understanding, I will give them clay that they can work with. And this is how I started out. And you probably remember now, I'm in middle school, so I have to start off really simple. But I give them a sheet of paper. And this part, they like, crumble it up. Just crumble it up as much as you can. And then they open up the paper. And they color the paper around the edges. And then they have a tentative parchment in which they can begin the code. And once they learn more, they're going to transfer it to the clay that I will give them. Now, this definitely relates to civics, law, society, because the students are amazed that the laws are that strict in comparison to this time. So they kind of get the first dose of law and action in the ancient times. Okay, next slide. Now, I do let them know that the code was very strict regarding to its citizen, but the code established order in society. And then we start discussing the civic parts of it, how that is going to relate. Okay, next slide. And just to know, in case you want to get to this level, the materials are clay, parch paper, the students themselves can do it. I provide the brushes, the ink pen, and a list of the code itself. Okay, next slide. And I've already did the procedure, so that's pretty simple. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, here's one of my favorite ones because we do tie in different government in comparison sometimes to what was going on to the Constitution. So I provide a lot of different books to the students. And I've got some right here. Even though this is sixth grade ancient civilization, I'm always comparing because we're a candidate for the IB school. And so there's always this consistency that we have to do a comparison. So the students, they do get educated on the US government. I'm not sure if I put that in my bibliography or not, but I can send it. And believe it or not, I compare the presidents of the United States to the different rulers at that time. But what the students really like to do is to role play. So there is a play. I mean, I don't know if it will come through on here. Okay, so I had it where it did come through. But it's not coming through on this, I'm sorry. Okay, it's not coming through, I'm sorry. But I can put it in additionally, but there is a play that the students role play. And they also use that play to where they make a comparison to ancient civilization in ancient time. But it is called the Constitutional Convention. And the students are able to role play, decide what part that they want to do. Next one. This activity can be assigned to any grade level. It is especially effective during Constitution Day, which occurs in the month of September. I have used it as a school-wide contest. The students are given 1 to 2 weeks to address what it is to be an American. You could change this to what to something like what it is to be a Mesopotamian, what it is to be an Egyptian, what it is to be an Roman. The contest can also be a district contest. And I have used that before. 2 years ago, we had the district contest. It was basically the elementary and the middle school. The senior high school students did not get involved because, you know, that's a little different and they have their own thing to do. I also include a rubric because the students have to know what they are looking for and what the judges are looking for when they score them. So the first thing is the topic should be addressed. This is addressed. This is where you're getting your language arts as well as your social studies. Next slide. The message of the student clearly is relevant. And last but not least, grammar and sentence structure should be considered. Again, consider that 6th grade to 7th grade is very different than your senior high school level. So therefore, it is presented at a different level. Next slide. And what I did, I pulled an example from one of the students. And this, I didn't put the name in because I promised that I would protect the privacy of it. But the students like participating in the essay because it's a part of their culture. They get to pull from that. They don't necessarily have to memorize facts. They write from the heart. So if I could share this one, and the time will probably be indicative of who was president at the time. What it means to be an American. I, being an African American, have seen changes in this country. The year that I turned 1 year old, Barack Obama became the first Black president of the United States. This event was important because it taught all Americans that change can happen as long as you try. That was important to me as an American, especially being an American of color. President Obama said, if you're walking down the right path and you are willing to keep walking, eventually you will make progress. And President Obama was right. I am trying to make progress. Next slide. As an African American, I can be proud of my culture, love myself, knowing that others like me have made this country what it is. Being part of America, I am proud of my culture, history, knowing that we have given to America. I am proud of being an American. And that's probably one of the successful activities that is done school-wide, because not all students feel that they're high achievers and that they can be as successful as another student. So this in itself encourages students to participate because they know they can express their opinion, which is part of civics. And they have this identity that he or she can be successful in school. Okay, next slide. Now, my bibliography, the one I had showed up. This didn't quite show up, so I will send that, because in the one that I did, it did show up, so I'll have to resend that part. But I can, I did show you some of the books already. And one thing I do, I go back to outdated social studies book to also get the content. For instance, this is McDougall, World History. And even though it may not be used in all of the districts throughout the state of California, what I like about it is pretty clear cut, and the way they divide the content as far as what the students will learn. So I always keep the old traditions just in case. Here's another one. Our school currently is using History Alive, the ancient world. Sometimes I think it's too easy for the students because they really do need to have their levels go up. And another one, Social Studies Comes Alive. Now, this has been invaluable. This is by R. Casey Davis, and he has different recommendations, what you can do across the board.
Lose your voice? I think so.
I'm sorry? Did someone say something?
Just keep going, Joanne.
A peg, Dr. Hill? What did
Yes.
you say?
I said, just keep going.
Oh, okay. I thought it was something I had done. Okay. This book is invaluable. Again, my bibliography didn't come out in this one. Oh, okay, Angelica. And so this one I would highly recommend. And I will send that. Social Studies Comes Alive, but this goes up from grades 6 to 10. It's engaging, effective strategies in the social studies classroom. And I've used some of them, like I should have included folklore because the students love folk stories and different types, but this is a must if you want to put it in your personal library. Okay, next. Because I think I'm at the end now. Oh, okay. It should be
13, can you
a
see the top of
conclusion.
13?
Oh, okay, well, we had just basically one more slide. And basically all it concluded was that you could put different things, different items, different curriculums and content at the 6th grade level to get students engaged and motivated. Are there any questions?
I have one, Joanne. Have you ever used the Roman period as one of your activities with the kids, where they're looking at the differences between the early period and then the authoritarian time after, well, I guess Augustus and beyond, and having them notice the differences in those two sections?
And see, I always pose an essential question that will introduce the students to whatever we're doing. So at the end of each unit, and in this case, it would be ancient Rome. One of the essential question is, what caused the fall of Rome? And the students are able, through the work that they have done, to answer that. And they do a comparison because we talk about also what is going on in the United States. For instance, right now, this is a particularly, shall we say, interesting time period. And because we do talk about what is going on with the government. Why do people think the way they do? Do you think we will maintain our type of government, which is the democracy? And so, yes, I always provide for that they can have that comparison of what was going on in the ancient civilization at the time to not only what is going on in the United States, but globally. Because certainly you can bring in what is going on with Russia, what is going on with Ukraine. So they are able to make that comparison. Now with ancient Mesopotamia, we haven't gotten to the military part yet, which the boys are going to be very excited about. But in the long shot, to answer your question, yes, they love to make that comparison.
Okay, thank you. That's the only thing I'm looking down. I hadn't realized it was quite that long. I was interested in what you were saying. We have the magic moment of being over our time now. And so if anybody has something to add or say, or I think we'll let that one talk in, and then we should say goodbye, and thank you to our presenters, and thank you to our audience, and proceed with having supper or something. Anybody have something they want to say? Okay, well, I very much appreciate the groups and the differences in the way people were approaching civic ed in their classrooms, and that all of them are valid. And it's different time periods in a kid's life means you approach it in a different way than if a person could actually go out and be part of a political activity like they would be able to as a senior in high school. So it's very valuable to think about these things. And I appreciate all the time and trouble people went to develop their PowerPoints and share their information with others in our region. And is it something that you would like to continue with? Or is this something that you're already doing and you wanted a few things? I would really like for each of you to send me a note back with what you would like to do with this session that we had. We're going to try to post it on our YouTube page, and when we get that, then everybody will get an email from me saying how to access that. Okie dokie. Thank you all, and we will hear from you soon, hopefully, when I send in the URL for the YouTube. Okie dokie. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.